All right, now to our first conversation. The rising cost of living has been a significant challenge for many households. And I'm eager to understand how state governments are working to alleviate the burden on its citizens. Recent inflation data shows headline inflation. That was the highest in Bauchi State. If you can put that up for me. Food inflation was highest in Sokoto State, while Bayelsa was the lowest at 33%. Even though we know that Benue, that's most of the food basket at this point, but we still see food inflation was high there. So states with the highest inflation rise for August, and we see Bauchi leading at 46%. That's on a year-on-year basis. So we see the pressure even at the subnational level. Join us now to unpack this. We have Mr. Christian Udechukwu, who is the Commissioner for Industry, Anambra State Government, joining me right here in the studio. Good morning. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Laddie. Happy to be here.
It's fantastic to have you. And definitely sometimes I just ponder. I wonder what it feels like, to have stable prices. I don't remember when last, I actually experienced that in Nigeria. It's been a while. And seeing the inflation rates we're getting used to now at the subnational level and nationally, we're seeing, states like Bauchi State with about 46% inflation. And I'm wondering, how are the subnationals looking at what is really causing high prices, this cost of living crisis that we're experiencing in Nigeria right now?
Well, as I'm sure you know, the economy has been under stress, Nigerian economy. And that obviously is also partly a result of ripples of global inflationary pressures that has reached our shores, which is made even more complicated by some of the local dynamics of the Nigerian economy. We have had productivity issues, we've had power generating issues, and there has been recently a lot of logistics challenges to do with fuel distribution, leading to upward price pressure on transportation and related house rents and food prices and so on. The multiplier effect of the challenges of predicting the environment is what's actually driving the pressure on prices, as you see. If we have stable petrol supply, for example, then there will be stability of prices. People will shut down their fuel stations. And if the fuel stations don't get shut down, then you'll have stability in the cost of transportation, and similarly, stability in the food supply. If you have stability in food supply, then it means, of course, there are no speculation on the cost of food and the availability of food. If there is a disruption in the petrol supply chain, which disrupts the supply of food and the cost of transporting them to the different states, then food prices are likely to be stable, even when they move up because of cyclical effects of the planting and harvesting seasons. You will have stability in the environment. So in Anambra State, actually, we are dealing with these matters more differently.
Looking at Anambra State, it's right there at 33.90%.
Well, I can tell you the pressure on that is even going lower and lower, in part because of a lot of the policies that the government is pursuing. What we are doing in Anambra is really revolutionary in many respects. We have a government in Anambra State that is people-focused. Our governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, spends a lot of time thinking how to relieve the pressure of the present economy on the people of Anambra State. And so, for example, so many things that will be putting pressure, expense pressure on families, we're addressing. In education, for example, we're offering free education for all children in primaries and secondary school up to SS3. It means that families don't have to worry now about spending money in school. There are no levies for anything. There are no charges for tuition or any kind of levy.
Because there are a lot of parents right now having to deal with the headache of
paying school fees. Yes, exactly. No, that headache is gone. It's not there in Anambra State. Or any child that is in a public school in Anambra, their parents don't have to worry about school fees. They don't feel the pressure of children going back to school. Okay? And what that does really is that the parents have extra money in their pocket to deal with the pressure of inflation on food prices, for example. Also, similarly, in the healthcare sector, we also have free medical healthcare for mothers, natal care, prenatal, postnatal care, and the prescription drugs, including if the mother goes through, a lady goes through a surgery, giving birth and all that. It's free. It's all free. So in a situation, for example, where a nursing mother goes to a hospital and has a baby, often the medical bills run into millions of naira. The state government writes it off. We write it off in Anambra. We give free prescriptions. And so what we're doing in the education sector and in the healthcare sector is the government is putting money back into the pockets of families. Okay? And then additionally, beyond that, we are also ensuring that people are able to move around a little bit more freely and in safety. So that means that our goal in Anambra under the governor is to build a smart megacity. A smart megacity means a place where you are able to get from any location to another location within a fixed time frame of anywhere between 30 minutes to 1 hour. We have 21 local governments and 179 communities in Anambra State. And making mobility easy is a very important component of the governor's agenda to ensure that people are able to move around freely.
Going back to, the free education, free health care, I'm wondering, how's the government able to fund this? Is it through taxes or about debt?
No. It's through prudent financial management. Governor Suludo calls it doing more with less. Okay? Zero borrowing. In the last 2 years now, by next year, March, it will be 3 years, the government of Anambra State has borrowed zero from any financial institution. And if you compare historically the budget of Anambra State in dollar terms, perhaps, and we look at the Naira component perhaps has been rising, but in dollar terms, in terms of what it is able to buy, it's able to buy less. Perhaps 12 years ago, or perhaps even 16 years ago, the budget would have been anywhere between $1.2 to $2 billion, depending on the variable exchange rate. Today, we have less than $300 million, and we're doing phenomenal work with it. It's like magic. Like you say, the government should be harvesting money from education, harvesting money from health, but we're putting it back in the pockets of the people.
And talking about putting money in the pockets of the people, we know we still have that lingering issue when it comes to minimum wage. We know how much the 70,000 Naira minimum wage, even though some states are not implementing that now, we know how much of fuel that can get you, maybe about 70-something liters of fuel. And
my wife bought fuel the other day for one car at 79,000 to fill the tank, yes.
Over the minimum wage. So how's the state government looking at this? Because at the end of the day, everything is benchmarked to the dollar. You hear fuel prices are up because the Naira has weakened. But when it comes to wage growth is non-existent, at this point, even though we did see about 100%. But when you benchmark that to the dollar, you're not really doing much, with that amount. So how's the government looking at this minimum wage issue? Should we benchmark minimum wage to the dollar?
No, that would be an unhealthy thing to do. The first thing we do in Anambra, first of all, is that we pay salaries promptly. Okay, so whatever your income expectation is, you get it when it is due. The government of Anambra State doesn't owe salary arrears to anybody who is in the ecosystem of the government space system. It also includes contractors, by the way. The other thing that we also do is that we have funds set aside at ASBA, is a small Anambra Small Business Association. They have a dedicated fund there to support MSMEs. We also have funds in my ministry that are available to also support MSME in partnership with the Bank of Industry and all. So we use that to also augment the support to families for those of them who have adjunct income. The law allows even civil servants who are in business, who are in service, to go into agriculture. Okay, so that's why the president, Obasanjo, had a farm when he was president. He would, on weekends, leave the presidency and go to a farm. So what we do have is that we are, as you know, in the last 2 years, you may have heard, we distributed about 2 million palm oil seedlings Okay, and we also gave out about 500,000 coconut seedlings. We're adding another 1 million this year, and they are high yield varieties that fruit within 3 to 4 years. Now, what that does really is that in the last 2 years, we've been able to reach around 150,000 households. It's a zero poverty program. It is designed to lift the families that benefit from these seedlings out of poverty. Okay, so what this program does really is that it is aimed at ensuring that families that are able to nurture these trees in front of their homes, the backyard, in the gardens, and so on, that in the next 3 years, which is in the life of this administration, they start earning income from it, and they'll earn anywhere between $1 million to $2.5 million on a yearly basis, depending on the cost of palm produce at the time. As you know, Nigeria presently spends about $470 billion on red palm oil importation from outside of the country. With the 4 million seedlings that we're expected to hand out between now and the end of the year, at the end of the first term of this administration, we would have been able to claw back significantly that portion, and we're looking to domesticate that fund in Anambra State.
Right, but let's talk about jobs now. At the end of the day, we're in a high interest rate environment, and we know that is not good, for jobs. And I know your principal, he does have experience when it comes to monetary policy. So how are you seeing this high cost of borrowing era? Because at the end of the day, that impacts how businesses can actually do business and actually employ, people. So how are you seeing it? It's interest rate setting season right now.
Well, in Anambra State, jobs creation, again, is a very significant matter for the state government. As you know, we have a program to build a brand new city, Anambra Mixed-Use Industrial City, where we've set aside 4,141 hectares of land. We have dedicated spaces, land use spaces in that space for an automotive industrial park, a pharmaceutical industrial park, agro-processing industrial park, a financial center, entertainment center, residential areas for the workers who would work in that industrial city. And it's such a compact space that, we have a walk-to-walk policy for those who are going to be there. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because we are not just looking at solving problem for today. We're looking at creating a sustainable future for the people of Anambra State. In terms of what we're doing today to ensure that, our youths and workspace continues to grow, we have a One Youth, Two Skill program in Anambra State, where the last set of youths who benefited from that were about 5,000. Now we have extra recruitment of making the numbers to about 8,000. Now, the previous ones got 400,000 at the end of their skills acquisition program. We set aside another 2.5 billion that was made available to them at low interest, 11% interest. I can 11%. Tell you. Yes, 11, not the 30, 40% that you get in the commercial sector. So we have development finance available for those who want to go into entrepreneurship. We also have additional dedicated fund of about 2.5 billion in the Anambra Small Business Service that I mentioned earlier. So the governor takes jobs creation very seriously. We also trained 20,000 youths under what we call the Solution Innovation District. It's really about skills acquisition, ICT, because the governor says that knowledge is the currency of the future. If our people are educated, then they are able to create space for themselves in the job space. So we're looking to create employers of labor rather than people who are looking around trying to find jobs somewhere. So we've done 20,000 under the Solution Innovation District in partnership with Microsoft and Wood Lab. And then we're also training people to learn coding. We set a target of 10,000 there. We've done just over 2,500. And again, we're launching a new program. Perhaps the governor will unveil it before the year runs out. We call it Creating the Anambra Digital Tribe. Okay, we're creating an online learning management system that will be able to offer training and skills services to at least 1 million people. Right. And the governor is going to be unveiling that before the year runs out. The point here is that on the industrial side, in economic terms, we're supporting existing industries. Okay, and we're supporting them through procurement. We have a policy in Anambra State where we prioritize, under what we call Made in Anambra, we prioritize procurement from industries that are located within Anambra State. Okay, it is aimed at sustaining their businesses and ensuring that they stay in business and they continue to employ people.
Because businesses right now, they need all the support they
Absolutely.
can get as consumers.
Yes.
But we're going to take a breather now.
Okay.
We're going to drill down on how to get cost of borrowing lower, in most of the country, at this point. But thank you so much. We're going to continue the conversation right after this break. It's still right here, Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're still discussing easing the cost of living crisis at the subnational level. I still have with me Mr. Christian Odechukwu. He's the Commissioner for Industry, Anambra State. Thank you for staying with us. And definitely, we're dovetailing from the cost of borrowing at this time, because at the end of the day, the businesses have to spend more on doing business. They will pass that on to the consumers. And I'm still trying to understand how much the average consumer, can take at this point. What would you say is the advice for subnationals right now? Say, you know what, cost of credit is high. What can you do? What single-digit loans or grants? What can be done at this point? Even though I know the government will complain that funding is an issue.
Well, the spending power is at the discretion of the government at the federal level. And there's a potpourri of information and data that informs their decision making. I imagine that the focus is on increased productivity and what will help to ensure that productivity rises, we will begin to see a downward pressure on these inflationary figures that you're showing. We don't necessarily need to cap prices per se.
That hasn't really worked.
Well, yes, because it would seem a little bit repressive. But there are tools that are available to economic decision makers to ensure that when they deploy them, it will be in the interest of all operators in the economy to ensure that they maintain prices at stable levels and then even begin to pressure them downwards. But we have the structure that we have now doesn't really seem to take that into account, because it's more silo-based than an integrated approach to decision making. I'll give you an example. In the United Kingdom, where I've had the privilege of both study and work, when there's inflationary pressure, on a yearly basis, it usually sometimes moves up or moves down. But if it moves up, what the government does really is, there are people who are on fixed income, those who are on welfare systems and so on, and they are usually the bellwether. What the government does is to say, if we have an inflationary rise of 1%, how does that affect their overall quality of life? I mean, what does it push off their shopping basket? Okay, that 1% inflationary rise. So what they do then is they then look at all the components that inform that base point for their weekly allowances and say, is there anything that needs to come off this basket because of this 1% inflationary increase? And if there is it something so important that we don't want it to go off? And if we don't want it to go off, how do we make sure that that 1% increase is taken care of? Okay, so say, for example, if it's, say, electricity, okay, they will say, okay, what we can do, because this pressure is not universally felt, the businesses can absorb it, working families can absorb it, but these people can't. So if this adds 1p to the cost of utility, say maybe water or electricity and all that, for this year, because there's a historical data that supports consumption over a 10-year period, they will estimate that 1p increase and decide that they perhaps will meet it, instead of reviewing the overall weekly award. They just take care of that 1p for that 1 year and pay it off. Okay? Because next year the pressure may be downwards. So it's not an intervention that stays. It is a one-off. Okay? But what we find happening sometimes is that there's an intervention in the economy here, and it stays. It's a permanent thing, and it doesn't respond upwards or downwards. It just keeps going up. So that's why we have so many distortions in the economy that you get the feeling like somebody hasn't sat back to take a complete look. As my governor will say, you think it through. You don't just think about what you want to do now. You think about the impact, the ripple effect. You think about what will happen immediately after that decision is taken, or if that decision is not taken. And when you have an overall spectrum view, then you can step forward confidently or step back confidently.
Right. But, before I let you go, most of the time we're thinking about economic growth. And some forget there's also something called population growth. The population keeps growing, even faster than the economic growth most of the time. Looking at this climb. So talk to me about the size of Nigeria, over 200 million people. Are we getting too big as a country to be taken care of?
No, you cannot say that we're getting too big as a country to be taken care of. Even if we get to 300 million, we're not the biggest country in the world. We're still not the size of America. We'll probably be matching Europe. But you have China, a nation of 1.3, 1.4 billion people. And you have India, and they feed themselves every day, they clothe themselves, and they do all the things that they were supposed to be doing. No, I think that in Anambra, for example, we have 8.5 million people, and we are constantly planning on taking care of them, not just today, but for tomorrow, like I said. So we're mapping out, building out roads, like I have said earlier, investing heavily in the road. We've done, in the last 2.5 years now, more roads than most governors have done in 8 years or even in 16 years. And we're doing that, as I said, doing more with less without borrowing. We built out we're planning out about 2,000 kilometers of fiber optics cable with IHS as our investment partner to ensure that there's greater connectivity of communication infrastructure around the state. Okay. So that if people are not moving around, they can at least communicate on the instant. So we're doing everything we can to ensure that the cost of living in Anambra is low.
Thank you so much. That's much we can take. So much to unpack there. Definitely I'm going to have you another time where we can, talk about these issues. Mr. Christian Udechukwu is the Commissioner for Industry, Anambra State Government. It was great having you.
Thank you, Ladi, for having me on the program.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. All right, so there you have it. We're still trying to find out how to ease this inflationary pressure. Let's get to a point in Nigeria where prices, you can actually determine where prices are going, hopefully not up. Thank you so much for watching. That's it from me on Business Morning right here on Sunrise Daily. I hand things over back to the Sunrise Daily team.